On May 19, 2026, one shareholder stood up at Roper Technologies' annual meeting and asked the board to break the company apart. Spin off the software businesses, he said, unlock the value. 98.8% of votes said no. To save a $37 billion empire, most investors cannot even describe out loud. Here is what they were actually protecting. 88,537,000 votes against. Just over 500,000 for. The activists' argument was textbook. Conglomerates trade at a discount. Pure software businesses trade at a premium. Spin them off and shareholders get an instant re-rating. The market disagreed by roughly 165 to 1. To understand why, you have to understand what Roper actually is. Because it is not what the ticker says. Roper is not really a software company. It is a capital allocation holding company that owns toll booths. It buys boring vertical software businesses that sit between professionals and their own paychecks. Law firm billing, insurance policy management, K-12 payroll, lab informatics. Then it owns them permanently and lets them compound, quietly, forever. That is the quiet monopoly playbook in its purest form. Last fiscal year, Roper booked $7.04 billion in revenue, up 14% year over year, 6% organic, 8% from acquisitions, all of it produced by roughly 28 separate businesses you have probably never heard of. Aderant for law firms, Vertafore for insurance, Deltek for government contractors, Frontline for schools, CliniSys for labs, Date for freight, names that do not trend on Twitter but live deep inside the workflows of entire industries. Here is how that revenue splits across the three segments. Application software is the biggest piece at $3.87 billion. Technology-enabled products, $1.7 billion. Network software, $1.48 billion. The two software segments together represent about 76% of revenue. And inside them, recurring revenue, things like subscriptions and maintenance, totals roughly $3.98 billion. Customers do not buy this stuff, they rent it indefinitely. This is the toll booth design. Each business sells software that is mission-critical, priced low relative to the workflow it controls, and effectively impossible to remove without shutting operations down for weeks. The annual invoice is small enough to ignore on a budget line. The cost of switching is large enough that nobody seriously considers it. Multiply that by 28 verticals, layer on annual price increases, and Roper sits in the middle of all of them, collecting tolls every single year. Take just one. Aderant runs the billing and matter management systems for 88% of the Am Law 200, the 200 largest law firms in the United States, 77 of the top 100 global law firms. Try ripping that out mid-quarter and explaining the missing invoices to a partner meeting that bills in 6-minute increments. Or Vertafore. It sits inside more than 20,000 North American insurance agencies, over 1,000 carriers, 23 state governments, more insurance professionals than any competing platform on the continent. The agents do not love it. They cannot leave it. Their entire book of business, every policy, every renewal, lives in that database. Now watch the compounding. From 2018 through 2022, Roper's revenue barely moved, 5.19, 5.36, 5.35. That was deliberate. Management was quietly selling off industrial and hardware businesses, swapping out hammers for software. Then the curve bends. $6.17 billion in 2023, $7.03 in 2024, roughly $7.9 projected for this year. Every new dollar of revenue is higher margin and stickier than the dollar it replaced. And here is the punchline of the entire model. $2.28 billion of free cash flow last year, a 32.4% free cash flow margin. The first time in the company's history it has ever crossed $2 billion in a single year. Q3 of 2025 alone generated $842 million of free cash, up 17% year over year. Now ask yourself what a normal mature company does with that cash. Buybacks, dividends, maybe a token acquisition. Roper does something different, it hunts. $3.6 billion walked out the door in 2024 alone into new acquisitions like ProCare for early childhood education and Transact Campus for cashless campus payments. Then in March of 2025, another $1.65 billion for Central Reach, software for autism and developmental disability care providers. The cash machine eats the next monopoly. Then that monopoly funds the one after. And the unit economics make this machine sustainable in a way most acquirers can only dream about. Stack the numbers: $7.84 billion of revenue, $2.83 billion of EBITDA, $2.28 billion of free cash, $1.55 billion of GAAP net income. Roughly 40 cents of every revenue dollar comes back as EBITDA. About 32 cents arrives as pure deployable cash. Almost nobody in software at this scale hits both numbers in the same year. Roper has done it consistently. 40.2% EBITDA margins from dental practice software and pipeline compliance tools and freight brokerage networks. Margins you would expect from Apple's services business or a luxury brand. Coming out of industries most analysts would not even bother to cover. That is the entire trick of the niche. Nobody is watching. This is why the May 2026 vote went the way it did. A spin-off would have unlocked nothing real. The actual product Roper sells to its own shareholders is not the software. The actual product is the holding company sitting on top, the one that takes the cash from 28 little monopolies and reliably rolls it forward into the next one. Break that loop and you do not unlock value, you just get a pile of fragments competing for capital. The market understood this, the activists did not. And that is the quiet monopoly thesis in one sentence. The best businesses are not the ones loudly selling to you. They are the ones quietly sitting between you and something you have to do anyway. Bill a client. Issue a policy, pay a teacher, order a lab test. Roper has stacked nearly 30 of these toll booths, refuses to ever sell one, and turns more free cash flow into the next acquisition every year it survives. Boring on the surface, a compounding empire underneath. If you want to know which holding company is quietly building the next one, subscribe.